I wanted to do a Father's Day video, kind of as a tribute to my own father, and as kind of a reflection on the role of fathers in society and how their importance cannot be overstated. As I've said before, I think the single most important institution in society is the family. There is the extended family, but at the core, I think the nuclear family, the mother, the father, living together, married, raising children, is the single most important institution. And it's something all civilizations have had. All successful organizations have believed that a child needs to have a mother and a father, and that the male and female influences ensure the best outcome. That's not to say everybody who has a good mother and father turns out all right, but in kind of the whole, in the meta, in the kind of the grand scheme of things, as Dennis Prager put it, the single best chance you can give a child is to have positive male and female influences. And I think particularly when it comes to boys, if they don't have that father figure, that strong male role model, that it's an immense problem to them as they grow up. I think it makes their kind of becoming a man and becoming a man in a positive way very, very difficult. And I think you can particularly see this in the black community, where the vast majority, in a lot of cases, of black kids are raised by single mothers. They don't have a father figure there. And just, I think it's different if your father's dead and if your father abandoned you. Because if your father's dead, I don't think it's nearly as bad. I mean, obviously, it's extremely tragic if your father's dead, but you at least know that he wanted you. If your father abandoned your family, then not being wanted by a parent is a really stressful, difficult thing on your psyche. I can't imagine how painful it would be. And if your father's dead, another male figure can fulfill that position, be it an uncle, be it a teacher, be it a family friend. The point is, you need somebody in your life as a male, as kind of an example of masculinity. It is an example of manliness. And it's not just that, but you need a positive example. Somebody who works for a living, someone who's law-abiding, someone who's faithful to your mother, someone who shows concern for his community and his society. You need that example. And it provides something that a mother never can. In my mind, that there's two very different roles for the mother and the father. The mother's job is to unconditionally love her children and to provide them with support no matter what. And this is because there's a certain degree of intimacy between a mother and her children, in that the child is very literally her own body. It grew inside of her and she gave life to it. And to a certain extent, I think, so long as you're not like a terrible person, it's very hard to hate something that was directly born from you. On the other hand, the father is a somewhat more remote figure. And I always like to use God as the analogy because he's our heavenly father. And kind of God versus Mary. Mary is in Catholicism so big in part because she's your mom. She's the mother figure. She loves everybody unconditionally. She's human, so she's a lot more approachable than God. She's human, so she's just not as frightening, etc. She's kind of the person who you can always run to and will always kind of forgive you and care for you. Whereas on the other hand, it's not that God isn't loving, but it's a little more remote, and he's also the one to discipline you. Mary doesn't discipline you, she just loves everybody unconditionally. She's incapable of not loving people. Whereas God unconditionally loves you, but he also punishes you. He also sets an example for you, which is kind of to a certain extent what I think the role of the father is. So just kind of going into my own life, I think the man I am today and the things that I value about myself and the things that I think are good about myself are to a large extent a product of trying to emulate my father. So my father, and I won't go into detail about this, but he works at a job where he makes a difference in a lot of people's lives, and he takes this very seriously. And he devotes himself to working as hard as possible while doing the best job as possible, because he really values the opportunity to make a difference in people's lives. And he doesn't take this for granted. And to this end, he works very long hours. My father's probably worked 60 hours a week on average for the last 30 years or so. Prior to getting his hip operation a couple of years ago, he'd only taken, I think, 3 or 4 sick days over the entirety of his career. And I think 2 of those were to take care of my sister or I when we had fallen ill. But he was willing to work weekends, to work nights, to do whatever it took to get the job done. and to take his responsibilities very seriously. And he not only viewed that as helping others, but being kind of part of his duty as a man to provide for his family. And to my mind, that's always been an extremely powerful example. And I'm very hardworking. I'm very kind of committed to following laws, to trying to be a productive member of society, to not being a leech, etc. And I really give that as something I try to emulate from my father. Also, honor and integrity is very important to me. And once again, that's something my father's always had, to try to do the right thing, to try to kind of be true to your own sense of self-worth, to your own sense of honor, regardless of what happens around you. Because he's very often been in circumstances where people have tried to do things that are mentally destructive, and he tends to stand up to them. And like I said, it's just a very important model. It's very important for a child to have that model of masculinity in their life. Now, it's interesting because I feel I've gotten a lot closer and I have a much better relationship to my parents after I became a Christian. I started taking my faith seriously. Because one of the Ten Commandments is honor your father and your mother. And I think that is, in many cases, one of the most important ones. Both to honor your heavenly father and to honor your people here on earth. And it's also comes to something Dennis Prager said, that the most important factor in happiness and contentment and fulfillment in life is gratitude. Is being able to say to people or to God or to the universe or whatever you want to call it, thank you for what I have. Even if things are bad, even if there's a lot of things going wrong in my life, there's always something to be grateful to. And so long as you can remind yourself of that, you can be happy. And once I started kind of getting into Christianity, etc., I became conservative, and I started to kind of think more highly of the family. It became more and more clear to me kind of the sacrifices my parents had made, how they did a really good job raising my sister and I, and just how critical it is to the way I've turned out. And I know I have a lot of problems. I know I suffer from mental illness. I know I'm not the most social. I'm kind of shy, etc. But ever since high school, I've always had a job. I've always worked hard at my job. I've received commendations at my job frequently. I always pay my debts, and I always try to have a sense of integrity in everything I do. And that comes directly from emulating my parents' example. And if I didn't have that in my life, I don't know where I'd be. I don't know if I'd be in need. I don't know if I'd be in jail. I don't know if I would have given in to my depression. Because as bad as it gets, when I get to the point where I'm almost catatonic, that sense of duty, responsibility that my parents have instilled within me is often what is the thing that keeps me going, is the thing that keeps me going ahead, etc. So because of that, even if I'm having a bad day, even if I don't feel like getting up in the morning, I have that sense of duty to always do my best and to always keep moving forward and try to work and try to just improve myself and improve my life. Like I said, even if I don't feel that way, having that sense of duty for my background, I think is very important. So what I want you to do, and this is kind of a call to action, if you have good parents, if you have parents who didn't abuse you or steal from you and aren't drug addicts or complete degenerates, go tell them that you love them. Tell them that you appreciate them and that you appreciate the sacrifices they made for you. Maybe tell them about some things they did right. Tell them how they made your life better. I think it's very important to show gratitude, especially to our parents. So please have a good day, everybody. Say Happy Father's Day, and like I said, tell your parents that you love them.